Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
It is the tornado Tony Panicow.
And Psychic Tom Paget with his predictions ready to go.
And we got a big show, we got a lot to cover. We got last week's UFC, this week's UFC, we got Bellator coming up soon. We got a lot of boxing action to talk about. Tony was just about to pipe in before I sent it live here, so what do you got, Tony?
Yeah, I didn't even know that part with Trish was unrecorded.
No, that was just...
It's like, we got it right on. I'm like, oh,
they should have recorded it, right?
And then it's like, and it was like, I was like, what happened? Like, when you went to dial up, did you have her, like, you know, piped in too?
When I went live? No.
Yeah, like when you dialed Tom and I, like, I guess you had, like, a previous recording that had her number in it too.
Oh, you thought that? No, that was real. It's just we do it on Skype. So I do a conference call, and we're actually going to have to do that tonight with two guests because we're going to have Jeff Zimmerman on. He's the one that hooked us up with Richard to begin with. And I thought he originally had shared some stuff with me way back in the early days of the Zions case. And it turns out he introduced me to the guy who shared that stuff with me as well. So he introduced me to Richard Steele and this guy that gave me the yearbook pictures of Dana White with hair. And also it was Jennifer Pike, the wife of Russell Pike, who founded Zions. It was her year in the same school in the yearbook. And also Lorenzo Fertitta was in that same year at Bishop Gorman High School. So nowadays, actually, it's kind of ironic. It's kind of like my dad with the picture he took of Whitey Bulger. All these pictures that I originally put on the internet of all these people have now gone around and covered the internet. They're attached to all kinds of different stories. Like, if you look up any like Google search and do Dana White, with hair or something like that, or Dana White with hair, just without the commas, then you'll see the black and white pictures from his high school. Those are mine. I put them out there. But there's stuff all the way over in the UK with my pictures that I posted. I mean, they're obviously the yearbook's pictures, but I copied them and posted them. So I introduced it to the world. So, small world. But there's a lot of stuff actually kind of coming up on the 10-year anniversary. I saw some things on my Facebook memories today, 10 years ago. And that was like 2011. That was like the biggest time of my case, so it's kind of ironic we got Trisha on by accident tonight. Because that was like just right on target for the kind of work I was doing back then. You know, still trying to get me back into it. Fate is trying to draw me back into this stuff. Controversy. But anyway. We got some fights coming up this weekend for boxing. We had some fights last week. Virgil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker. That was a pretty decent
good
one.
Fight. Nice grab.
I actually watched a boxing match this weekend. You'll be proud of me, Tony. Scully's boy. I had to watch him. I just stumbled across it. I didn't even know it was on in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
3 o'clock in the afternoon. Artur Beterbiev fighting Adam Danes, and boy, Adam was no slouch. He kind of had a little bit more open defense than was good for him, but he slugged. He slugged a lot, and he broke.
Back and watching that fight.
He broke not broke, but he split the uprights with Beterbiev. Right early in the first round, he punched him right in the nose real hard. Kind of set the tone for this is going to be a tough fight. Never really knocked him
going back
sideways.
To watching that, go
ahead.
It was a knockdown early, which I thought was more of like a slip. I thought he caught his foot against the, the not the cushion, but like the thing right underneath the ring, like that to keep the guy from falling out of the ring. And I thought the first round knockdown was not legit, but he was holding his own. I mean, and it was a couple things that, like, when I was talking to my dad about it, we were watching it, and the first thing we said was, is he struggling a little bit because Scully wasn't there. I don't know how much John got to really train him for this fight, with obviously all the travel restrictions. Beterbiev over in Russia. John's over here. You really can't be shuttling country to country now like, you normally would. And, I know last year when the shutdown happened, I think they were in Canada training for a fight. So I don't know how much they've been having the chance to work together. So I don't know if that threw him off. Who also had a bout with COVID, I guess sometime last year. And, are there lingering effects?
I think it was just more,
nobody really knows.
Ring rust from my perspective on it. And,
ring rust, that's a possibility.
And
he's
Dean's,
also 36 years old.
Like I commented on Scully's post about this. I was like, Dean's is maybe not a world-class guy in the eyes of the announcers and stuff. Maybe he doesn't have that record that's unstoppable, but it doesn't take anything away from the effort that he showed. And he never threatened Beterbiev, so just because it went longer than it should have, maybe in prime form he knocks the guy out in 5, doesn't take anything away from Beterbiev coming off such a long layoff. I mean, it's kind of expected. And even at one point the announcers were like, yeah, maybe he's just needing the extra work, wants the extra rounds. So.
Yeah.
And he's a methodical guy, that's why he's undefeated. He takes his time. He sets up his punches. He weathers the storm, so to speak. He's what's his name? Teddy Atlas always talks about in these types of fights. He's like the log, the ocean, washing the log up on shore. It just keeps lapping the waves at the side of the log and pushing it till it gets the log on shore. That's what this guy was doing to Deans. And even as cautious and good with his defense as he is, he got hit quite a bit of times, but I never saw him shook. I never saw him stumbling. That's part of his game too. He intimidates you by the fact that you can throw your absolute best at this guy and he doesn't move. He'll keep coming forward. He never really runs at all in a fight. And
right.
Some people will get hit hard and go into a shell. Will take some steps back, but literally, I think I saw him take 5 steps back in the entire fight. That's maybe an exaggeration.
Well, you know what? It was funny you say that because they did say at one point, they did almost a comparison of Rocky Marciano. And I remember saying that last year when I went to his fight in Philadelphia against MIOCIC, because no matter where he went, he was right on top of him. And that wears you down mentally more than physically. And
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I used to say a lot, back fight. And if you go back and you watch guys like a Rocky Marciano that were very methodical pressure fighters, you had pressure fighters like Joe Frazier that were like 100 miles a minute, always bobbing, always weaving, always moving. Joe Frazier was like perpetual motion. Guys like Aaron Pryor were perpetual motion. Henry Armstrong was perpetual motion. Guys like Rocky Marciano were more methodical. Beterbiev are more methodical, where it's like, they're always in your face, but they might not always be punching, where, but no matter where you go, they're very, smothering, and you either have to move or punch, and you can't get a breath in there. It's like being, have an anaconda wrapped around you, because then it just takes your breath away. It just slowly, constricts you till you can't breathe anymore. And that wears you down mentally, too, because it's like, no matter what you do, Jesus Christ, can you get off me for a second so I can get a breath?
Yeah. The one weakness I thought he showed was because he got the hands up all the time, which I recommend, he did have that space right where his little belly was sticking out. Obviously, he's, very good shape, so he didn't have much of a belly, but, if you're going to hurt him, you start low. You start low to bring his hands down. So Deans actually did land some of his best punches to the body. And I do remember this specifically when I was thinking that, and he did end up throwing those punches. He landed them almost every time, but he just didn't do it enough. Because as the fight went on, he knew he needed a knockout. He kept fighting more stupid and aggressive and headhunting style. But if he had started a little bit more smart and went for that body weakness area, that open target, I think he could have done a little bit better, but I still think he would have lost. Beterbiev is just that good. But, yeah, if he's got any weakness, I think it's there.
It might have been more of a firefight, but that wouldn't have served him well.
Yeah. So Beterbiev stays undefeated. They're talking about Canelo now with him. I'm not sure they're going to make that fight happen or Canelo wants it. But it's interesting, nonetheless.
You know what? I'll tell you, here's obviously we got Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders right now. Canelo being the cash cow, you're going to look, if he gets past Saunders, a big September fight, especially if things are really starting to reopen again, we could have a big September fight. Now the question is, does Canelo's team see something in that fight? Like, did they sit there and say, you know what, here's a guy that's a killer. He's 16-0, 16 knockouts. He's a devastating force, but, and if there's a but in there, that fight could happen, where they could sit there and say, yeah, let's make the fight because we see a weakness. It could be maybe, and Rich, you just said, it could have been a case of ring rust. It could be a case of coming back off the COVID, or it could be the case of a guy really being 36 years old and Father Time is undefeated. Canelo could sit there and just like he did with Kovalev. Kovalev, even though he had the losses to Andre Ward and Alvarez, not Canelo Alvarez, the other Alvarez, Alexander Alvarez, had those losses, but Kovalev was still considered a killer, and Canelo took that fight because they knew that he was right for the pickings. And it was going to be a chance to grab a belt, get a big name on his ledger, and I just jumped up the light heavyweight and I took a feared killer and took him out. Now, it's things like Canelo beats Billy Joe Saunders. If they see a weakness in Beterbiev where they think they can exploit it and make a hell of a lot of money and put a big name on his ledger, don't be surprised.
All right. We're getting Jeff Zimmerman on here. Sorry to interrupt there. We're going to get to the boxing, rest of the boxing, and the MMA a little bit later. And then we're going to get Richard Steele. Jeff. Is that you?
Yes.
You're with us.
Yep.
All right. We're going to get Richard on, and then we'll start. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I don't know if I will be on this, but you will now.
Okay. Yeah, just like if he's telling a story wrong that just, interrupt.
He's got a lot of stories, let me tell you.
Yeah. This isn't coming up with it now. Oh, there it is. Okay. I got him. I got his name spelled as the traditional Steele in my Skype contacts. The Man of Steel.
Yeah, people leave out the E all the time for some reason.
All right, here we go. Got to be punctual with the referee. He'll take points off.
Hello.
Hello, Richard.
Yeah, right.
Hey, how's it going?
You ain't gonna take no points off of.
How's it going?
What's up?
How's it going?
Good.
All right. Well, this is Rabble-Rousing Rich Bergeron. You probably haven't heard my voice in about 10 years since we last interviewed you, but we also have two co-hosts now, Tony Pennical and Psychic Tom Padgett. And we also have your boy
Good evening, Richard.
Jeff on the phone as well, listening in.
Oh, okay.
What's up, Richard? I didn't know I was going to be with you, but here I am.
Yeah, you did. Okay. That's okay. That's no problem.
All right, Richard. First of all, let's go over what you're doing now. You still involved with the boxing gym?
Yeah, I still run my gym and get over. Well, since the virus came, I got about 60 boys and girls that operates out of my gym.
Awesome. And you doing anything else promotional-wise, or any other good stuff in Vegas?
Oh, yeah. I'm managing a kid out of Mexico. His name is Martinez. Lester Martinez.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he's 8-0 right now, and he's going to have a fight on the 3rd of April in Los Mochis.
All right. Well, send us. We'll have to get you
Mexico.
to send us any info on them. We'll plug them.
9-0.
9-0. All right.
Yeah, right.
You got to win while we were talking, huh? No, I was kidding. No. So, what else? What else you got going on out there? Anything?
Nothing. Just managing him and my boxing club. Just waiting for them to lift this.
Restrictions. Yeah.
At the time here in Las Vegas, we don't have no boxing. We don't have nothing.
Right.
Until the virus get lifted, and then we get back to work.
Yeah, I understand there's kind of a big fight going on between the governor and the mayor there in Vegas, Caroline Goodman there. She's getting angry that the governor is keeping everything restricted.
Yeah, I mean...
Richard, do you think that was the reason that they decided to put the Canelo fight down in Dallas, Texas in May? That they didn't think there'd be enough of, the restrictions lifted to even have it at the Raiders' new stadium out in Vegas?
Well, yeah, I think that with the promoter and with the boxing commission, I thought they came up with a plan where, hey, since us rushing it and pushing it, because Canelo fight, he's the top fighter in the world today, so, we don't want to take no chance, and, begging people to buy tickets and everything when it's a good fight.
Right.
So they went to Texas. Yeah, so they gone to Texas for the last couple of fights, and they did good there, so, why even, worry about it?
Right. Now,
and if I can just add, being in Texas, why ruin a good thing out here? We're the new fight capital of the world.
well, Elon Musk went there for a reason, right?
That's right.
Anyway, we got to talk about Marvin Hagler. Obviously, we lost him recently, unfortunately. And I was talking last week. One of the things
that
I
was a very
really bummed out about is finding out that he was living in Bartlett, New Hampshire, which is like an hour away from me, and I never knew. And I would have loved to meet him because I knew Goody Petronelli personally. I got trained for a few weeks by Pat Petronelli, the son there, and I worked a little bit at the gym that Hagler started at, and I met everybody he knew, but I never met him, unfortunately. But you met him, obviously, and worked with him in the ring. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the Petronelli brothers, they was very, they knew boxing, and they really knew how to, train a guy and get him ready. And to prove that, Marvin Hagler was a great fighter, and they really helped him with his career, kept him going, kept him winning, and impressive. Every move that they made with him was an impressive move because it was the right move.
Right.
They were great guys, great trainers, and even when there was some misunderstanding in the ring, they always carried themselves very professionally, even with me as a referee.
Richard, with the recent passing of Marvin Hagler, I was on a forum recently, and I'm talking to some different boxing people, and one of the things that was said was Marvin Hagler was a fighter's fighter. If you had someone you could say, I want him to look at this guy and emulate this guy, Marvin Hagler would be someone like that. He was always in great condition. He was tough, amazing chin, amazingly dedicated. Now, you had the privilege of being the third man in the ring, and I know I asked you this when we had you on about 10 years ago, but I just love your recollection of it. You had the privilege of being the third man in the ring during that battle between Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns, and that crazy first round. Just walk us through it again, what it was like to be there right in the middle of it.
Well, it was a round that official, all the referees always hoped that they would get a fight like that. But this first round was one that, you second guess yourself, man, you know, I had said, wow, I know they can't keep this up because I can't keep it up. You know, you know, because I was so, and you know, that's one thing I used to really, you know, pat myself on the back because I always stayed in shape. But after that first round, I was so tired. I never forgot. I was so tired. I was just saying, wow, I know they can't keep this up. You know.
Now, we had another referee on. I think the last guy we had on was Steve Schmoger. Probably know him. Probably seen him in your circles a few times. But Steve Schmoger told us a little story one time about getting hit in the face by a fighter in the middle of the fight. Did that ever happen to you? By accident?
No, not in the face. I got hit a couple of times on my arm and my chest. But never in the face.
Yeah, he was able to walk it off, I guess. He didn't go down. But
yeah. But, you know, the Petronelli brothers, they was good for boxing. They had a good name about themselves. And they really trained their fighters very well. And, you know, there was no nonsense.
Yeah, one of the guys I met up at the gym who used to actually do the runs with Marvin told me that what's his name? Goody Petronelli used to run along with Marvin, number one, and Marvin used to wear combat boots while they ran in the sand on the beach. For running shoes, combat boots. So I think that helped out with the leg strength a lot.
It did, you know, and it does, because I know myself, coming from the Marine Corps, I always ran them boots.
Yeah. No joke. So, I went to military school, and I didn't even want to march them. Never mind, run. We had a guy that coached our boxing team at Virginia Military Institute who was like the kind of Marine that would literally smoke a cigar while he was jogging. So when we went on our first 5 o'clock in the morning run, I remember passing him by after the first mile and going, geez, I must be going slow because he's sitting there smoking a cigar while he's jogging.
Yeah. Well, you know,
military
it takes all time, but, you know, Marine Corps gave you everything.
Right. Now, tell us about some of your other memorable fights. Do you have any fights that you're particularly fond of looking back at?
The Herms and Marvin was one of the great fights.
Right.
That put me in the record book. But, you know, Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard, I thought it was a good fight. And Marvin, boy, he never forgave us from that fight because, you know, he always said that they stole it from him, you know.
Yeah.
And I could see where he thought that.
If they stole it from him, they stole it from me too, because that was the first fight I ever bet on. I think I was 10 years old. I bet on him.
Well, there were just two people that comes to mind, and Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, it's very hard to beat those guys in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Was that good?
Yeah.
Yes. Was it bad? Yes. You know, but that's what Hagler always said. You know, I seen Hagler in Rome. Monte Carlo, right. And you know, that's what he always said. You just can't beat Leonard in Vegas. You know.
Right.
So I said, yeah, you're right. You know, I said, yeah, you're right. You know.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week. That was kind of sad that he had that axe to grind with boxing as a sport for so long that he moved all the way to Italy to just get away from everybody. It's kind of unfortunate.
Right. Yeah, he carried it for many, many years. Matter of fact, I took a picture of him and Leonard, and it had been like 28 years.
Wow. Since
I've seen them together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I said, we definitely have to take a picture for that. But, you know, neither one of them won do it.
Maybe it took Evander Holyfield forgiving Mike Tyson for biting his ear off to make that kind of a reunion happen.
Right. But I told him, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise both of you guys and as a winner,
Yeah.
And that's what made them, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they agreed to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they agreed to it. We took a picture. And I'm very happy I did that because, now that he's gone, really, I cherish this picture of me and him and Lennon.
That's awesome. Great story. Yeah, it's one of those sad things. It's some of these guys die too young. One of the guys I met in the Brockton area that was kind of the same scenario, Iron Mike Pusateri, we called him the original Iron Mike. He was a good friend of the Petronelli family, and he died too young, had some cancer issues, and he was 60-something, early 60s.
Yeah, and then when you really look at the Marvin Hagler, he got out of boxing too young, but he got out at the right time. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. I wish more people would have had a chance to see him and see the kind of work that he really performed, But, he was a little too early. But a lot of the kids today, they don't realize how great of a boxer he was.
Right. Yeah,
like I said, he was a consummate fighter. I mean,
only knocked down once, but Goody would have told you it was a slip, right?
Oh no, and it was. I mean, and I think Goody was right because, like we said on there, I said to Goody when we interviewed him, probably about a year before he passed away, and I said, in Brockton, Massachusetts, you had Rocky Marciano and Marvin Hagler as your two, well-known champions. I mean, you had other fighters like Robbie Sims from that area. But, Rocky and Marvin were, widely known world champions. And I said, two guys that had a total of about 120 professional fights and only suffered 3 knockdowns, Rocky going down against Jersey Joe and Archie Moore, and Marvin going down against Juan Roldan. And Goody jumped in and goes, that was a slip. I said, I was about to say that. What you put in the water up in Brockton, but man, it helped develop some hell of chins up there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts about working out in Goody's gym was there was a little sign on the wall, and the walls themselves, I mean, you could look at them for hours because there was all the, standard gym stuff, old posters and news clippings of all the different fighters that were ever there, but there was this one dog-eared, worn-out sign that said, when in doubt, jab out, and it was right over the center of the ring, and the jab was always my favorite punch. So I used to just kind of look up at that every time I was in trouble or whatever, and jab out.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, what was your quote in the legendary night for Leonard Hagler? Something like, the more you watch the fight, the closer and closer it gets.
Yeah, that's what I told him, and I meant it too. The more I watched the fight, the closer and closer that fight got. And I even told Hagler that when I saw him. I said, because every time I see it, it gets closer and closer.
Right. It's kind of a crazy scenario, though. Like, when you think of all the other sports and how their scores are determined, and then you think about combat sports, and you just realize, like, how many fights were just decided by opinion. There's just no way to determine an actual winner when it's that close. I mean, it's just some guy saying, well, I think he landed more punches, even though, they could have the punch stat numbers that show just the opposite. It's all subjective. And it's just one of those interesting things.
Yeah, and because you got to put other things. Yeah, you got to put other things involved in that too. I mean, who made the fight?
Right, hometown cooking.
Who? But Hagler always thought that more should have came to him because he was going forward making the fight.
Right. Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, But Leonard's style was the kind of outbox you and move and throw combinations. And boy, that was a great fight. It was a great fight.
Yeah, I'll never forget it because there was a kid in my schoolyard who was big on Leonard, and of course I loved Hagler. You know, it's just, I was a young boxing fan. I didn't really know too much about either guy, but I figured Hagler was more aggressive, and Sugar Ray would just be flashy and not have enough power. So I bet my good old $10 and lost it quick. I was about 10 years old, so yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't
but that's what
life savings.
That's what Marvin always felt. Marvin always felt that he should have got the fight, or he made the fight. He's the one that went to him and chased him, and you know. But
from what I read, I mean, I read a very long article about the whole grudge and everything like that, and the lead up into the fight and everything. It must have been on the anniversary of the fight, maybe a few years ago or something. But the whole point was that Sugar Ray waited specifically for the right opportunity, and even went so far as to micromanage the size of the ring that they fought in, to the point where he thought it would favor him.
Yeah.
So I could see that. He was a very smart guy. So he wanted to make sure everything possible could be set up so he would have some kind of advantage in this situation.
He wanted everything in his favor,
Yeah. So that was another reason why Marvin was probably rip shit about the whole affair. Because they probably catered to him and gave him everything that he wanted, and then, you know, let him wait for the right opportunity to come and have that fight happen.
Did they ever come up with the reason why he died?
Well, there was the rumor going around that it was virus or vaccine related, and that was debunked by the wife. And also, TMZ had a report from one of the sons that said he had some chest pain. So it sounds to me like it was a heart attack. And then there was some sort of...
I think they said he passed away in his sleep. And the only record I had heard about the vaccine related was from Tommy Hearns, and saying, "Hey, praying for my brother. He's currently in ICU. Praying for my brother Marvin Hagler, currently in ICU after receiving the vaccine." But everything else that I've read, it sounded like he was in his sleep.
Oh, I hadn't heard that yet, Tony. But there was a discrepancy.
I thought that's what I read, and I could be wrong.
There was a discrepancy on whether he died at home or at the hospital. Was the only thing that I thought was in dispute when I last read about it, but it was like a week ago, or closer to when it happened. So there could be new stuff out there now. But I do remember his wife specifically speaking out to say that it was nothing to do with the vaccine.
Well, I heard both. I heard both sides of that.
Yeah.
Both ways. That's what I heard. So I don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
hell of a fighter, though. He was a hell of a fighter, man.
Richard, it reminded me of a quote from a couple of years ago. I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up in Philadelphia. I trained in Philadelphia. I fought out of Philadelphia. And obviously, the great fighters we had back in the 70s was Benny Briscoe, great, tough middleweight. And when he passed away back a couple of years ago, there was a column in Ring Magazine, and I forget if it was Russell Peltz that wrote it, but somebody had wrote it, and they said, you know what, if a guy like Benny Briscoe can die, a guy that was like just built out of granite, he goes, then that leaves no hope for the rest of us, because if Benny Briscoe can die, he goes, there's no way I can be immortal. And that quote was resonating to me when I heard about Marvin Hagler. I was away on vacation, and I got the text message from my dad, and I was like, when I saw it, I was like, am I dreaming right now? I'm like, nah, I just am not seeing a text message saying Marvin Hagler died. I'm like, nah. I said, I got to be dreaming. Then I got another one, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not dreaming. And I just remember thinking, Marvin Hagler was so tough. He was just so so, determined. I'm like, if he can go, there's no hope for any of us.
Yeah. I will never forget that quote he told me. You remember when I got a doctor's report on that cut?
Oh, yeah. That cut right in the middle of his forehead, yeah.
Yeah. He told me, he said, you're not going to stop this fight on no cut.
When
Rocky had a similar story.
When I see blood, I get meaner.
I just have to have a doctor's opinion. That's all I told him. I got to have a doctor's opinion. And I said, come on, let's fight. Let's fight, But that's what he told me. He said, I'm not going to let you stop this fight on no cut. Because, cut don't mean nothing to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And exactly where that cut was, it reminded of an old 1980s wrestling matches when they'd always blade right in the forehead, because that's where it would always bleed a lot.
Right.
Like, that's what it reminded me of, like somebody climbing down the steel cage with their head busted open, like Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes or somebody.
Speaking of cutting your head open, I love the quote that he gave somebody one time when he said, if you cut my head open, you'll find the boxing gloves. Cut my big bald head open, I think is what he used this wording. You'll find a big boxing glove.
Yeah.
Great guy. We're getting back to you, Richard. How did you first get involved in the sweet science? When did it first catch your eye?
Well, I got involved when I was about 12 years old when I first went to the gym, and a guy named Chalky Wright was my friend's father. We went to the gym, Chalky Wright's son Albert Wright, and I went to the gym and to meet with Eddie Futz. And when we got to the gym, we get to the gym and we met Joe Lewis. I met Joe Lewis. I met also at Chalky Wright's house. I met Sugar Ray Robinson.
Oh, awesome.
So, so I never forget. He says to me, he said, the first time I met him, he said, are you in the gym? I said, man, are you in the gym? I looked at Albert, my friend, and Albert just looked at me and he told Joe, yeah, we in the gym. He said, okay, that's good because you stay in the gym, you stay out of trouble.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
the gym got me out of a lot of trouble.
Are you in the gym? And every time I think about it, I own a gym. I've been owning a gym for over 20 some years now. So yeah, I'm in the gym all day, every day.
Is it still keeping you out of trouble?
Yes, it is, and it's kept me out of trouble all of these years.
Yeah. I wish I did more of
it. Richard, that was one of the things I would always say to anybody, because I started when I was just about to turn 18. I was doing it through my college team, and we've been out to University of Nevada, Reno. I'm from Philadelphia. My team was up by Penn State University, but they had us at the University of Nevada, Reno, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, all over the country on the college circuit. And whenever I would then try to mentor others, I wasn't doing it actively anymore, but I was still, working out. I would say, when I was a teenager, before I got into boxing, I said I was, a good kid, but I was a dumb kid. I would do dumb things. I'd go out there and I'd run around and gallivant and all that. And I'd get in, a fight here and there. And then I'm like, thinking about it now in my 40s, I'm like, man, how dumb that was. So I'm like, not only could, you get arrested, but somebody could pull out a gun, pull out a knife, run in a gang, jump you from the back, jump a friend or a girl or a family member. I'm like, man, how dumb that was. So now whenever I mentor anybody young, and I said, listen, I know what it was like to be a 16-year-old that didn't know where he was going in life and wanting to do something. And I said, I'm wanting to stand out. I wanted to get myself known. How was I going to do it? I could get in trouble. I could get in trouble because I wasn't a good student. I wasn't a great student. I wasn't bad. I wasn't a good football player, but I wasn't terrible. I didn't stand out. Fights to make myself stand out. I said how stupid I was. Now, I said, you know what, I was angry. And I get in front of that heavy bag, and whenever I'm angry, I hit it, and I hit it, and I hit it. Yeah. And when I'm done, I'm not angry anymore. And tomorrow, it'll be still there waiting for me. It ain't gonna jump me from the back. It ain't gonna call the cops. It'll be there. And tomorrow, it'll be waiting for me again. And that's what I tell people now. I said, you know what? You angry today? Oh, you're mad? That bag will take everything you got plus more.
Yeah. I practiced, and like I said, I was under Eddie Futch, and he trained me so well that when I was 17, I didn't want to go to school no more, so I just went to the Marine Corps. So find out that the Marine Corps had a boxing team. Wow, this is great. And I make the boxing team, and within 1 year, I become the Marine champion. Because the next year was the '64 Olympics, and I made it to the Olympic tryouts. So I did very well with the short time that I had in the game.
Awesome.
But it kept me out of trouble. It really showed me and introduced me to people that I would never get a chance to meet and be around. So it gave me some things that I could never get, I could never buy. But boxing has been great to me, and that's why I have a gym now, and I have so many kids in it. Hey, you just stay in the gym, you'll be okay.
Yeah, well, you're giving back, and that's a lot of guys. That's great that they do that. They got some from the sport, and now they're giving back, and and I commend you for that. I mean, that's a great thing.
Well, thank you. This kid Lester Martinez. He's a great puncher, great little boxer, man. He's a 167 pounder, and that's seeming like it's more tough guys at 168 pounds nowadays than it is in heavyweight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's drifting upwards.
That's the weight class.
Used to be when Floyd was around, it was welterweight division. That was the one to watch. Now it's Canelo's division. So,
yeah,
Canelo and light heavyweight. It's just getting all the attention.
I have a little gym in my basement, and sometimes I'll have friends come over and I'll work them out a little bit, or they'll bring their kids over and I'll work them out. Not as much since last year with the COVID started. But I have a lot of memorabilia hanging up, stuff that's been given to me, stuff from my own career. One of the things I have, which was given to me from my uncle, was the actual on-site program from Rocky Marciano, Jersey Joe Walcott in Philadelphia, because my uncle was there.
Wow.
But all these little things I keep. In fact, a friend of mine, he just passed away last year. He was 96, but he trained with Rocky Marciano, and then he became a referee, and he refereed Marvin Hagler. Refereed Smokin' Joe Frazier in Smokin' Joe's second pro fight.
That's great.
Yeah, and I actually knew he had a piece of Michael Grant, who had fought Lennox Lewis about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And when this gentleman Hank was sick, I had gone over to visit him, and his family asked that I come over. They were only expecting him to last maybe a week at the most. He lasted 10 months. But I go to visit him, and Michael Grant had just flown up from Atlanta to see him. And he yells up, he goes, "Go get Michael Grant to come down and meet Tony." And I said, well, meet me. No, I want to meet him. He fought for the heavyweight title of the world. I want to meet him.
Yeah.
But when this guy Hank passed away last year, Michael Grant flew up for the funeral, and we were hanging out with him at the post funeral luncheon, and I'm like, talk to a guy that was in there for the biggest prize of the sport. It's not just a piece of the heavyweight title. The undisputed heavyweight title, fought at the Garden. You don't get bigger than that.
Yeah, Lennox Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he had a rough night. I mean, Lewis was on his prime at the time. He was taking a lot of guys out.
One thing I don't think you know, but I started Michael Grant.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I started Michael Grant. He fought with me at 10 straight knockouts.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
I did not know that. Yeah, because like I said, he lived in he's not anymore, but he was living in a town called Norristown, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. And Norristown is only 20 minutes from where I live.
Oh, wow.
In fact, most of the time, because I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia myself, I mean, not as much now, with the pandemic, but normal weekends, I'm in Norristown almost every weekend, either visiting my friend and my godson, or visiting other businesses in Norristown and helping them do different events. In fact, the gentleman that passed away, his name was Hank Sisko. He was, like I said, a fighter, referee. Every year, he would be the kind of like the grand marshal of a 5K they do in Norristown for breast cancer research. And his family asked me to be the grand marshal for this year in his honor.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
But like I said, one of the items that I just found downstairs, and this was prior to the days when there was cell phones. And now if you're at a fight and something's happening in the ring, you can throw up your phone and get a video of it. Unfortunately, back then on a non-televised card, you don't have that option. I went to a card back in 1994. And every time I think about it, I actually get goosebumps. It was 1994 in Philadelphia, non-televised card. And they were having, obviously, Joe Frazier was going to be there, but also a guest of honor was Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad at the time was starting to really show signs of the Parkinson's disease. So, Joe gets in the ring first, and there was still some friction between the two of them. Joe gets in the ring first, and, and the crowd's cheering for him, and they were helping Ali up the steps, and he had his head down, but I think he was doing it intentionally. He had his head down, and he stepped in the ring, and he lifted his head, and he saw Joe Frazier, and you could see the twinkle in his eye, like he woke up, and he actually started dancing around the ring and doing the Ali shuffle, and Joe started doing the bobbing and the weaving, and it looked like it was, the Square Garden, 1971, the Thriller Manila all over again. And there were adults in the crowd that were actually, like, crying. And I found the fight poster from that card. I just found it about a month ago, and I'm going to frame it for my gym, and it has where Muhammad Ali was the special guest of honor there.
Yeah, he was a great guy. They all, a lot of people don't know, Muhammad Ali was doing an exhibition at the university, East Los Angeles College. And he was doing an exhibition there, and I knew him from the Marine Corps when I was in the Marine Corps, and he fighting the amateurs. So he asked the Athletic Commission. I just started refereeing. He asked the Athletic Commission to let me do his exhibition, and that's what really got me known. Yeah. So I did Muhammad Ali's exhibition. He had about 4 guys and beat them all up, beat me up, beat everybody. The guy, he kept on, get out of the way, Richard, get out of the way. At the same time, he was beating these guys up, This guy was he was really something, He was.
Now tell us a little bit about.
I love this guy,
Tell us about the military aspect, because I know all my fighting was in military school. I mean, I did a little training before I went, but my actual fighting was all in military school. in only 3 years. But I know, obviously, it's important for the discipline, but when you actually go into the military, it gets a little bit more intense than school. So just tell us a little bit about your service and how that inspired you in boxing and all that.
Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps, and I was in communication with my MOS. And they said, we want someone to box for our platoon against this other platoon. Well, I had a little boxing before I went in there, so I volunteered and I ended up beating the guy. And next thing I know, I was on the boxing team. And we had a heck of a boxing team. Matter of fact, in 64 Olympics trials, we had 5 guys that was in the Olympic trials from the boxing team. And that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot, because you got to remember, every state, in the United States was trying out for that team.
Right.
We had 5 guys to make the boxing.
Well, it's getting a little softer, but back when I first started in college was 95, 96, 95, summer 95. So back then they were just starting to shut down the military schools' mandatory boxing, and now pretty much every school it's only like optional for these people to box if they even allow it. But the military schools is where even the college boxing was dominant in the nationals every year. And I was fortunate enough to go to Air Force Academy for just a year, but that was the best program at the time. So I learned all the ins and outs. I went through the whole year of practice, and then I was able to start my own team at Norwich, and then I got to go to Virginia Military Institute for a semester and learn under the Marine Corps guy. So I can relate. The Marine Corps had the best people, and they knew boxing.
Mills Lane was in the Marine Corps. Mills Lane was in the Marine Corps boxing team before me, though.
We've interviewed his sons.
Way before me, but
great guys.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much the military. Obviously, it makes sense. These guys are fighters. They're supposed to be training to fight, so they're obviously great fighters in sports. But it has something to do also with the exercise regimen. With just basic training, and you got to take PT tests. You got to be in shape all the time, and I mean that's the best thing you can do as a boxer.
Correct.
And then you can't leave base, so you can't
that
get
was
in
the
trouble.
best condition I ever been in. Yeah, that was the best condition I ever been in when I was in the Marine Corps boxing team.
Yeah. Well, just being in the air of Colorado Springs helped me my year out in the Air Force Academy, but I did better during my time at Virginia Military Institute as far as the actual boxing, because I got a full record in. We went 3-2, and then ended up almost fighting Tony in the Nationals that year. That's how we pretty much met.
Oh, wow.
Because we had that coincidence in common.
Yeah, that was great.
So the camaraderie too is one of the questions I'll have to ask you next, but I always asked everybody that I had on the show is, what do you love most about boxing? And 9 times out of 10, people will tell me just, the people that you meet, the camaraderie. But I'm sure we asked you last time, but I'll have to ask you again. What's the thing that you love most about it?
Well, I love all the people that is associated in boxing, because they're great people. And I love what it's done for me. Made a man out of me. It made a decent human being out of me to be able to, take and give at the same time, but with a lot of respect to, honoring people, honor everyone, no matter, if you lose to them, boxing is like this. If you lose to them, they're just a better person.
Right.
So you got to honor that, You got to honor that,
Yeah, it's one of those things I've always been amazed by, that you hardly ever see anybody, even if they had beef before the fight, not hug or shake hands after the fight. I mean, it's like 1 in a million, the people that that hold that grudge till after they go at it. So
that's the respect that boxing teaches you. So it makes you able to get along with any and everybody.
Right. Awesome.
And one of the things I always say about boxing, and people on the outside that have never done it, I don't think they'll ever understand it. The sacrifice that you got to put in to do it, that's one. But the courage. The coach that I had in college was actually relatively well known. His name was Dr. Ken Cox. He was one of the managers of the U.S. Olympic team in '96 down in Atlanta. So he would tell us stories the next year about a guy named Floyd Mayweather, who was a 19-year-old kid who would bum quarters to play arcade games. Now you're looking at $1 billion Mayweather. How crazy that is. But Dr. Ken Cox would always tell us, he goes, anybody that has the courage to climb those steps and get into those ropes by yourself deserves respect. Because, hey, and a lot of us have played team sports. I know I played football, other people play baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, so on and so forth. You can always sub out. You're a basketball player and you're getting fatigued, you wave to the bench, they put the other point guard in for you. You're a football player and you get your bell rung on a play, you're on the bench, and somebody else is going in your place. Or you might take a couple snaps off, to put somebody else in to, run a few fly patterns. Boxing, you don't have that option, and if you need time home,
can't take a timeout either.
Well, guess what? And you being a referee, you're waving it off. You're like, it's over.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it's a heck of a sport.
Yeah, beautiful sport.
What was the worst fight you ever saw, Richard? You had to referee. What was the absolute worst performance somebody gave? Is there one that stands out?
No, not really. Like you said, if they got the guts to get in that ring, or kind of, takes away.
Yeah.
When a person said, "Well, that guy was no good" or whatever, but he got in the ring. He did make an attempt. But it was. I love them all.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I haven't seen a ton of fights live, but one fight I saw live in like a local venue. I'm not even gonna say the kid's name because I don't know it. I don't remember it, but he held the entire fight, and it was obviously like a quick 4-rounder or something. That was on the undercard, but he was a local kid with a lot of fights. But he just held on to the other kid the entire fight. Like that was his gimmick or something. It's like, did he just not want to fight that night, or does he do this all the time?
Well, we have that. I remember that happened when Henry Akamwande, who was a very good heavyweight prospect, fought Lennox Lewis for the title. He ended up getting disqualified for excessive holding.
Yeah.
Who was the dirtiest fighter you ever had in the ring? The guy that tried to do stuff while you weren't looking.
That's hard to do. That's hard to come up with. But what about the fight? The kid, the one that he cried. He started crying.
Oh
yeah.
Oliver McCall.
Oliver McCall. Boy,
we were talking about that before you got on the air because we were saying Rich was saying the UFC fighter did a reverse Oliver McCall last week. He laughed the whole time. He didn't cry.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oliver McCall. Boy, he had problems.
Well, even the fight where he beat Lennox for the title, they said you would tell if he was on his game, he would be crying as he walked to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that's when he's on his game. And I'm like, I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of somebody, in tears on the way to the ring. I could see somebody, hitting themselves or hitting their gloves together. I've never heard anybody crying on the way to the ring.
That's a whole new level of psyching yourself up for a fight, I guess. I don't know.
That's how much fear he had. Yeah.
Well, even Mike Tyson said he was always afraid going in.
Great chin.
Yeah.
But anyway, Richard, Tom hasn't piped in. I'm sure Tom's got a question for you or a psychic prediction. We call him the psychic.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Richard, I'm an old school guy, and we can look back on previous decades, and especially the 80s. I mean, I became a fan back in the 50s, when I was really young then, but the 60s were great, 70s were great, but the 80s was special. And I just feel bad that young people didn't live that. I mean, I know my younger friends studied it, but it was just, the sport just vibrated. I mean, every week we had something on, and it was free, a lot of it.
Yeah.
The majority of it was free. And it seemed like in the 80s you felt like you knew those guys because they were on so much. And so many people were passionate. And I guess that this is just an open-ended question. No one really has the answer to it, but could you see anything like that ever coming back? Or do you think that the pay-per-view and cable stuff is just kind of going to keep boxing at the level it's at? What do you think?
Well, they, as you said, was the greatest era for boxing to me. But I know some older guys that said, the 50s was, because they had all, Joe Louis and all the great fighters, Ray Robinson.
In terms of the interest, yeah, I'd say definitely. There's not as many people interested as far as the percentage of the population now as there was then. Because people would listen to it on the radio.
What makes it harder now? What makes it harder now to come back like that is that there's just too many other sports.
Right,
Kids are doing different things.
They're taking all the good athletes.
They got guys. They say what they want to say, but MMA took some of our fans away. Now we got people that watch golf on the weekends. I know I do, but there's so many other sports. That's why I think that when guys see it get tough in the ring, they're going to find something else to do. Because it's tough to be a fighter. It is tough.
Yeah. Yeah,
you ask yourself,
it's something different, that's for sure.
Yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Well, the one time I had to train for like a whole circuit of fights, it was only 1 year when I was on the official NCBA record roll, even though I fought a couple exhibitions here and there, and I coached the team up at Norwich and trained everybody for on-campus fights. But the one thing I just remember more than anything is you just were always hurt. If you had any kind of fight schedule, you always had some kind of injury you had to overcome. It's just in sparring, you could just almost dislocate something or, get punched in the arm or the shoulder, and you just always had to deal with something. So that made you tougher, just be able to adapt and overcome that kind of stuff. And
keep training.
One story I'm most proud of is, it started off bad. I came to the Naval Academy out of shape, off the summer, and I started boxing with VMI thinking, I got experience, I'm going to come in here my first year and I'm going to wipe these kids all over the place, and I don't care if I'm a little fat. And so they throw me in against this freshman kid from Annapolis, and I actually had to quit. I had to give up after the second round. We were supposed to go 3. And I just couldn't breathe. So lo and behold, I go through the whole season.
That was Art Terry. He was a hell of a body puncher.
Yes, he was. He hit a lot in the body. So anyway, we go through the whole season, and we're running all the time at VMI. We were running 7 miles through the mountains of Virginia and back into the streets once every week. Every Tuesday we do that. And then we had all kinds of sparring. We had the Marine Corps coach, so he got me ready for the regionals. And then the regionals, I'll never forget looking at him across the ring and him realizing who I was. He thought he had it made. So I turned the tide on him, left him with a busted nose, bleeding nose in the first round, black eye, and he couldn't hit me with a body shot the second fight. So that's what got me to nationals. And then nationals, I beat the first guy, and then I ended up fighting a guy named Michael Jordan, who Tony and I both fought. And not the Michael Jordan who plays basketball. But
looked like him though. No.
I've never been happier that I lost to anybody in my life, though, because Michael Jordan went on to fight the guy from the Air Force Academy who was like 7 feet tall and could hit you from a stool, and he got knocked out in 30 seconds. So I was happy to let him get knocked out on ESPN because it was televised at that stage. And I got a bronze medal.
It's funny because, Rich, like I said, when he was fighting at VMI, that was during my senior year. And like I said, we came close to matching up. At 185 pounds, I drew the 6'7" guy in in the semifinals, and or the quarterfinals, I think it was, and it was like I just couldn't get inside, and I ended up losing the decision.
What year was that?
That was 1998. His name was Mark Slatton from Air Force. He ended up being the national champion in 98, 99, and 2000.
Oh, he was vicious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised he never went pro. Because he could have been damaging.
That was just a couple of weeks ago, man.
It felt like it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did my junior year, the year prior, I was coming off that summer a pretty significant knee surgery. And the day that I came home from the hospital, this was before caller ID, they had my legs all propped up, and they're saying, we thought you were only going to be off for maybe like a week or two, but you're going to be on crutches for about a month, and you can't train for about 2 months because the damage was worse than they thought. So I'm laying there propped up. I took my medicine. My phone rings. Okay, my friends have been calling me all day. Hey, you home from the hospital? Hey, we'll come over and see you, so on and so forth. Phone rings. I answer. I think it's my friend Dave. Hey, Tony. Hey, can I talk to Tony? I'm like, hey, what's up, man? He goes, Tony, this is Marvin Frazier. And I'm like, yeah, right, man. That's a good one, Dave. And he goes, I got your number from so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, my God, this really is Marvin Frazier. Marvin was calling me because he wanted me to come work out at Joe Frazier's gym. Well, I wasn't going to be able to, train for 2 months, and then I was going back to school anyway. But I had already established myself down in another gym, and I wasn't going to walk out on my trainers that took me when I was a nobody. So I go back up to school, and because I was still rehabbing, I wasn't able to run the miles that I was used to. So my weight was having a hard time getting down. Back then, I was normally 178, 180. That's where I was comfortable. I was around 200. So the fights are starting, and it was, second semester, and we're getting ready for the first fight. Coach says, where are you weighing? I said, I'm 187, Coach. He's like, all right, take this. We're going to set you up for a fight at 190. I said, okay, fight at 190. So the next week, he goes, where are you weighing? I said, 183. He goes, okay, I'm going to have you fight heavyweight. So wait, I lost weight, and I'm moving up a weight class? I said, okay, I'm putting rocks in the pocket. Fought a heavyweight. The next week, he has me fight the eventual 2-time heavyweight national champion out of Navy, who became a Navy SEAL. That was a kind of a tough fight. I got cut real bad in the mouth, which they ended up stopping it. Then I'm at 180. Coach goes, okay, you fought at 180 the last 2 fights. I said, yeah, regionals is coming up in 3 days. He goes, you think you can make 165? I said, in 3 days? I said, yeah, I can do it. Which I should have never said that. And remember the fight when Roy Jones got disqualified against Montel Griffin?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching that the night before the weigh-in, myself and a teammate. He was jumping up a weight class, I was dropping 2. He's got a 12-inch meatball parm, I have a sliver of an orange. And he's apologizing to me every bite he took. For nationals, I ended up losing in the regionals on a last-second knockdown. So for nationals, they put me at 172. So my record from 1997 still stands, where I did 5 different weight classes in a span of 2.5 months. And I'm very proud of it. My dad was like, that's the stupidest thing you've ever done. I'm like, yeah, but Dad, I'm in the record book, and nobody else has ever done that.
Yeah, that was great. That was wonderful. That's something that all the years that went by, you still remember it.
Yep. Yeah. And I remember the order, and I did it, and I remember how bad I felt doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have to cut a lot of weight, even when I did wrestling.
Well, that's what I love about boxing.
I was lucky
enough. That's what
enough.
I love about boxing. You never forget it.
Yeah, exactly. We were watching, my dad and I were watching a fight probably about 2 years ago. Because my dad, he's like my fight buddy. I remember, and this is one of my fondest memories growing up, watching so many fights with him on, ABC back in the 80s. Hagler Hearns. I watched so many Sugar Ray Leonard fights. I watched so many Boom Boom Mancini fights. My dad was under the weather a few weeks ago after he got his COVID vaccine. So I was able to show him how to use YouTube through the TV, and he was watching old Matthew Saad Muhammad fights. Mm-hmm. So that's how he kept occupied while he was recovering. So, the fact that he's been my fight buddy for so many years, we were watching a fight a couple years ago, and I think it was David Lemieux. And David Lemieux, they had to cancel the fight because he was cutting weight so bad, they had to rush him to the ER. And they said it took 8 bags of liquid to get him, where he was out of the woods.
Yeah, there was a girl passed out at the UFC weigh-ins recently, too.
Yeah, my dad looked at me and he goes, at least you never did anything that stupid. I said, Dad, is that a challenge? He's like, yes, yeah. But that's just the banner we have. I was so happy a couple years ago because my dad had never been to Las Vegas. And I couldn't, the weekend of his 70th birthday in 2018, I couldn't. But 2019, 70+1, I took him out to see Canelo and Daniel Jacobs fight because my dad loves Daniel Jacobs.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
so,
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, he did not get to go. In fact, Rich sent me to a fight fan convention, and I got the press pass to Fight News Unlimited, and I met Tommy Hearns there. I got to shake that vaunted right hand. He yelled at me because I didn't bring my dad to the convention.
Talk about the greatest event with the worst naming. They call it the Box Fan Expo. You think you're talking about the Walmart $10 box fan that you get to put in the window. Should be called Boxing Fan Expo, but they call it the Box Fan Expo. But they've been doing it for years out there in Vegas. I don't know if you've ever been there, Richard, but it seems like they do their homework. They invite a lot of people. I know that's probably going to be tough to do again this year, but yeah. For some reason, they got their stuff together.
Yeah, not this year. You know what, Rich, don't count September out of the question. Depending on how the rollout goes, don't count September out of the question for Mexican Independence Weekend, which happens to be the weekend of my birthday this year, so I'm thinking about a trip.
Wishful thinking.
Hey, I'll cover it like I did the last time.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll hook it up.
September's a possibility, I think, if we have enough of restrictions lifted.
Well, let me know what's happening in September, because I'll be here.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to, be able to meet you in person out there.
Hopefully I have a champion by then.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we got a Las Vegas number the other day from this little program called Skype. So even though I live in New Hampshire, I have a Las Vegas number now. So I might have to make a trip to Vegas so I can actually use it while I'm in the city. But,
all right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the opening.
Jeff Zimmerman, he knows how to get in and out of Vegas anytime.
Oh, all right. He can get me through the restrictions even if it's on lockdown.
He knows.
I got some connections out there.
All right. Well, Richard, it's been great chatting with you. We'll let you go, but
same here, you guys.
Awesome reconnecting with you.
Richard, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep.
I always love to talk to boxing fans and boxing personalities. So, feel free to call me anytime.
Sweet.
Richard, what I'll do is I'll send Rich the photos that I have last year with Michael Grant, and I'll forward those over to you.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I'll do that tonight.
That's great.
And how can people find you out there in Vegas? You got a website address or a physical address for the gym?
Yeah. I got. I'm on the web and have a address to my gym. You can call me anytime. I'm very easy to. Jeff Zimmerman. He knows everything where I'm at.
I'm talking about for people listening when we post the show online. How do people find you who are listening to the show?
Oh yeah, just tell them to go on R Steele 126 at Cox.net.
All right.
Yeah, that's Richard's email, and his website is richardsteelefoundation.org.
All right, awesome. All right, Richard. Great reconnecting with you.
Okay, let me hear from you. Let me hear from you guys, all right?
Definitely. We'll keep in touch.
Thanks. you again.
It's been great, Richard. Been great.
Yes, it is. Make me feel young again.
Right.
Me too.
Happy to do that. We all need a little of that these days.
Good night.
Good night. All right. So there we have it. Richard Steele.
That was great. I always love talking to him. Yep.
Yeah, he's got the same perspective with the military. I love it. Yeah. Communications too. That's a great
question again.
MOS to have in the military.
I remember his, telling that story back 9-10 years ago when we had him first on the air, and I loved how he told it. And he's saying like, man, he goes, into the first round I was exhausted. And I joked, I was like, you felt like you needed to go back to the corner, sit on the stool, and and drink of water. And that's why I had to ask him again, and especially the timing with Marvin's recent passing.
Yeah, that was great. I didn't know he was so in tune with the Petronellis either. I would have thought he knew Marvin more, but like we talked about, I guess the grudge was that strong with Marvin. He didn't have time to make friends after he was done with the sport, so it's kind of like I said, unfortunate, but kind of paints a better picture of the whole man, the complex character that he was these last 2 weeks, just telling our stories and then hearing it right from somebody who was in the ring with him. And by the way, we are restoring the old content on Blog Talk Radio, so we're going to have to get a sponsor here real soon to pay for these fees, but Jesus. They got technicians working on it. The audio is not lost from our original Richard Steele interview, and we might be able to get back the goody one, too. So.
And was that the one with DDP, too?
DDP, yes, it was.
One time. I'll tell you right now, I was cursing DDP out yesterday because I started back doing that yoga again this year. Like I did it after we had interviewed him. I ordered the videos.
I need it now. I got sciatica like a motherfucker.
The problems with bro, I'm telling you right now, you do those videos, it will stretch everything out. Like he does stuff to stretch your hips out, your low back, your shoulders. Well, I'm still like on the beginner. So what I did was I printed out his routine. And it's like, these are the videos to do if you consider yourself a beginner, which I do. Thank God I'm still doing the beginner. Because my dad was doing them for a while, but then he kind of got away from them. But I'm doing them 3 to 4 times a week. And I'm still doing like some of like the beginning videos. Like one's called Energy, which is about 22 minutes long. Another one's called Fat Burner, about 25 minutes. So I've been doing those, and I was used to those because I did them so many years ago. Now he had one called Below the Belt. I'm like, Below the Belt, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be stupid. It's only going to be leg exercises. It's not. It's like he has you doing upper body stuff, but it also stretches out your back and all that. I'm doing it yesterday. I got a puddle on the ground. My shirt you could wring. And I'm trying to, at one point, doing something called launching pad. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die. I'm like, I hate you, DDP. But at the same time, I'm like, thank you, DDP. Because this is a great workout, but while I'm doing it, I hate you.
I have a friend who's a landscaper, and he does yoga.
There's a lot of balancing.
And I was telling him about DDP yoga the other day and saying that you got your dad to do it. And I was like, I'm going to end up doing it. I know I am.
Well, I'll tell you, Rick, one of the things on the one that, like I said, I just added, which, like I said, I just started, which was Below the Belt, which I think I've done 3 times now. Normally, I'm still doing Energy and Fat Burner, because that's the one he has you do at least once or twice a week, and now he's adding Below the Belt once a week. It's like a lot of stuff where he'll have you balance on one leg, and he'll have you try to hold like a leg with your one arm and then stretch your other arm out to the sky.
Yeah.
And he'll come out and say, he goes, you know what? If you fall down, who cares? Get back up. Because too many people try to be perfect. So when I do those, I always position myself next to a chair or a table. So if I'm doing it and I feel myself losing balance, I just throw my hand there real quick. Yeah. And when he does the first video, he has the disabled veteran Artur on there. Artur was 300 pounds, walking with back braces and canes.
Oh, yeah.
And now,
story, the one that went viral.
Is now one of his instructors. So you see Artur, he's doing everything perfectly. And then he goes to the Fat Burner video, and he's got a girl in there, and then he's got a guy in there, and this guy, and the guy looks pretty much in shape. So it's like, you're like, well, these guys are like, they look professional. But when he goes to the below the belt, he has 3 girls, and he has a guy that actually looks like me. Husky guy,
Yeah.
and doesn't look like he's a very athletic guy. But the guy sitting there, like, you can see, like, they zoom in on his face sometimes, and you can see his body, like, trembling, and he's sweating. And then he goes, you know what? He goes, these people here are not professionals. These are people that just love doing my program.
Right.
So that kind of, like, encourages you. Like, you know what? If these guys that are just regular people are doing it.
Remember that guy we had on the show? The fat heavyweight guy from the UFC. I forget his name, but he was like, I don't even like to take my shirt off at parties. It's like, and he hit the guy with a head kick and knocked him out in one of his fights right before we had him on the show.
Sean Jordan?
Possibly. I forget the guy's name, but I might not even recognize it if you told me.
But I knew it wasn't him with Big Country.
But yeah, Big Country was years ago. We had him on the show, like
Oh my God, that was like one of my first interviews.
Years. I probably still have his number somewhere, but it's probably not good. That's that long ago. I did find out that Jeff and Richard have the very same numbers, though, so I guess Vegas should keep your number for a while. 10 years past the time we talked to him last. Good stuff. Anyway, finishing out the boxing last week, we had a bit of an upset with Glowacki getting, I don't know if I'm Glowacki or how they pronounce that. That's a Polish name.
I heard that fight. I did not get to see.
He got knocked out, I believe, by Lawrence O'Coley. KO backwards, the two first letters of his last name. Okay. O'Coley. We also had Annabelle Ortiz losing to Sinisa Estrada, as we talked about a little bit. Virgil Ortiz beating Maurice Hooker. It was a very dominant win there. And this weekend we have some really interesting fights. Alexander Povetkin in action, actually.
Well, we got the Dillian White, the Povetkin rematch.
Yeah, that should be a good one. And now that one was postponed, but because of COVID once already, right? So this is going to.
I think so.
This is going to be like a long time between their last fights. So it could be a matter of who took advantage of the time off and worked out, and who took advantage of the time off and got fat, out of shape. And in the heavyweight division, that makes all the difference because, you can come in at as much as 260. So it's going to be very interesting to see, as Donald Trump likes to say. Who comes in at what weight, how they look. And, you always have the rematch thing. Is the guy who got knocked out the last time going to have stage fright this time? What do they call that? Not ring rust, but what's the term for that? I know there's a common.
no, stage fright is like, I know exactly what you mean. It's not stage fright, but it's like where you have like that lack of confidence because like you've been knocked out by this guy, and
like that's why they give guys tune-up fights, and then they set up the rematch.
Yeah.
And they used to do that in the UFC all the time. They used to not bother with that kind of shit. They'd be like, oh, Chuck Liddell says he'll fight anybody, so even though he got knocked out twice in a row, we're going to throw him in with another killer. Stuff like that would happen all the time. But some of these guys, they really need to be managed better. You don't want to just let a guy's ego get to him and want to avenge the rematch immediately. In this situation, he's obviously got a little bit more time because of the COVID, but sometimes that could be a really bad idea to just go right back to it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens there, but it's definitely going to be a good fight. 2 weeks in a row, we got some good heavyweights. Let's see. I'm going to get to their records here in a minute when I find them. Looking for the good stuff. Oh, we've got a fight going on tonight, too, with our former guest, Amanda Serrano. I think I'm looking at
Is that down in Puerto Rico?
I don't know exactly where it is. I think that's what's confusing me here because I'm looking at that day. Oh, that's the results. Saturday is the 27th, right? All right.
Yeah.
Where the heck is a good fight here? You gotta love the card with 99% TBA 2 days before the actual event. On BoxRec. BoxRec is way behind. Alright. Sorry, my computer's being wicked slow. Got some fights in Poland. Nothing worth mentioning, unfortunately. Come on, BoxRec. Oh. We have a Glenn Hagler, believe it or not, fighting this weekend in Ocampo, Mexico. Glenn Hagler's 5-1-2, fighting Victor Herrera, who's 5-3-2. That's super middleweight. I doubt there's a relation. And we got a Miracle Jesus fight of the week here, since it's right in front of me. They're both in Mexico. It looks like it's the main event too, unbelievably. Welterweights, Jesus Ramos, 6-6-2, fighting Joe Eli Hernandez, who's 7-1. We also got Roberto Garcia on this card, who's 43-5, fighting an 8-27 Juan Carlos Rojas. He also has 2 draws, so that's probably our mismatch of the week right there. That's a heck of a lot of experience. I got a lot of losses. There it is. Alexander Povetkin. Okay, this is actually in Gibraltar. Alexander Povetkin, heavyweight 36-2 with 1 draw, fighting Dillian White, 27-2. This one's for the WBC Interim World Heavyweight title.
And Rick, the term we were thinking about is gunshot.
Gunshot, that's it. Yeah. Stage fright, gun shy, sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're both metaphors. Close enough. The co-main event here in Gibraltar. Fight's going to be on DAZN, by the way. Super welterweights, Ted Cheeseman, 16-2-1, fighting James Metcalf, who's 21-0. That's one's for title 2, the vacant BBB of C British Super welterweight title. And we got another welterweight fight, 12-0 Chris Congo against Michael Mckinson, who's 19-0. And it's for the WBO global welterweight title. Not world, global. I wonder if they're going to start making those titles everywhere now for every organization. Oh, he's not the world champion. He's the global champion.
He's a galaxy title holder.
Yeah, he fought on the shuttle on the way to Mars, so it counts. We'll see. We'll see if that ever comes to pass. Boy. Then we got our Fabio fight of the week at heavyweight here on DAZN. Fabio Woodley, he's 10-0, undefeated, fighting Eric Molina, who's 27-6. That's a pretty good DAZN card right there. Not bad for this slow Saturday for boxing. A lot of international stuff. A lot of stuff in the United States this weekend. International. Alright, let me find the United States stuff. They usually put that at the bottom for some reason on BoxRec. Well, this one's not international, but it's good. Ghana. Gonna go to Ghana to watch this fight. Super flyweight Prince Patel, 23-1-2, fighting Julius Thomas Kisarawi, who's 32-7-1. And this one's for a title. Vacant WBA Intercontinental Super Flyweight title. And how's this for a guy from fighting in Ghana? How about a name like this? Heavyweight Ebenezer Tete. 19-1, fighting Haruna Osamanu, which is 11-1. How do you get like a name like Ebenezer? I wonder if he's even from that. He's not from the Scrooge family. We know that.
Well, I mean, that's the only Ebenezer I've ever heard of. I've never heard of any other human being with that name.
Right? Jeez. I wonder if it was one of those things where, like, well, you know how they're always sending to these foreign countries, like, the reject clothing from us, so they got some, like, Disney gear.
Yeah.
Ebenezer Scrooge on it. And somebody said, I'm going to call you Ebenezer.
Sure. You know, like, one of those, like all the people now that have, like, the Patrick Mahomes 2021 Super Bowl championship.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. All right, I guess there's nothing else too crazy, too fabulous for the weekend here. Well, hey, United Kingdom has a couple, actually, we'll mention before we go on to MMA. Willie Hutchinson, 13-0, fighting Lennox Clark, 19-1-1, for the vacant Commonwealth Super Middleweight title, and then the vacant BBBFC British Super Middleweight title. This one's going to be on BT Sport over there in the UK. And we also have featherweights Louis Lin, 8-0, fighting Sebastian Perez, who's 12-1-1. And Nathan Gorman at heavyweight, 17-1, fighting Pavel Sauer, 13-3. All right. Yeah, that's about it. I'm checking up on Ebenezer, and then we're going to talk about last week's UFC fights. I got to see where he's from. Ebenezer. He's from Ghana. Ranked 3 in the country out of 9 at heavyweight. 32 years old. Ebenezer. Fought in Ghana almost every fight except his last one. Royal Albert Hall in Kensington. He got TKO'd by Daniel Dubois back in 2019. That was his last fight. 12-0. Daniel Dubois. All of his other fights are in Ghana. But yeah, he's got some halfway decent guys. And a lot of TKOs. Looked like the knockout streak to start his career. Yeah, we laugh at him, but watch. 5 years from now, Ebenezer will be the heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, UFC on ESPN. Main event was quite the spectacle. Unfortunately, I made some bad picks. It was probably one of my worst weeks on the FanDuel. I picked in the main event Holland, and he just talked his way through the fight and got taken down quite a bit. Derek Brunson, using his experience factor primarily and his good grappling, and just his ability to stall and keep the fight there was actually kind of impressive. If you don't mind watching a little bit of a lay and pray type of fight, you know. But it made it interesting because Holland wouldn't shut the hell up. He was even really asking Khabib Nurmagomedov, who was sitting next to Dana White outside the cage. He was asking him for advice between rounds. Khabib was trying to give it to him.
Yeah.
So he was actually live streaming his commentary, right, while he was sitting right next to Dana White. So there was a lot of memes going around about, oh, hey, Dana, here's your illegal streamer sitting right next to you. But, yeah, it was a bizarre fight. Went all 5 rounds. And, even if I had picked Derek, it wouldn't have been a big win for me because there was, the people you had to pick were the people that got the knockouts. And, one of my cards, I was smart enough to pick Tai Tuivasa in the MVP slot. And he got the quick first-round knockout. But, the other card I put Holland in, and I also I put Holland on the card with Tuay Tabasa, so didn't score me any points there. And then I picked the wrong guy in the first fight. I went and bought buys. I bought the buys hype, and Bruno Silva took care of business there. So he was one of the ones you had to have to win the money. And Montel Jackson I picked on one of my cards too, but it wasn't enough. Grant Dawson I got lucky on one of the cards. I just had too many decisions and losers when there was a lot of knockouts on this card. Anytime when you do the FanDuel thing and you've got like 7 knockouts and 5 people to pick, you pretty much have to have every knockout because some random person's going to have it. And the quicker the better for the point scoring. So even if you do get a good knockout on a card like this, like Grant Dawson, it happened at the last second of the fight. So it doesn't really produce as much of the numbers as a quick knockout. But that was a bizarre fight. Leonardo Santos actually was doing really well. I played both sides on this one. I had one guy on one card, one guy on the other. And so I would have been happy either way, I guess, but it wouldn't have made a difference on the numbers for my win. But anyway, it was a great card to watch. I watched just about every fight. I missed the first 3, I think, and then started off with the ends of Trevin Giles and Roman Dolidze. I caught like the 3rd round of that, and then I watched every fight through to the main event. But Keenan Song was one of the guys I really blew it on. I picked him over Max Griffin, and Max Griffin had a lot more experience, but Keenan had kind of a win streak going for him, and I just made a bad judgment call there. But one of the best fights I thought on that card was the little Ruiz girl who fought the other Buys. I don't know if it's a sister or a cousin or whatever, the other guy, but Cheyenne Buys lost the unanimous decision to the girl, Montserrat Ruiz. And tell you what, she got her one move down pat. Kind of like Ronda Rousey with the armbar. You cannot defend Ruiz's head throw. So there's actually a move that I used one time to beat a kid way above my weight class in one of my first fights at 171 at wrestling. And it sent the fight into overtime because I just nailed him with the head throw, and then I took him down once real quick in the overtime and won the overtime. So, yeah, it's the staple, one of the staples of just Greco-Roman wrestling. So it's ironic you don't see it more, but this girl was just torquing it more than I've ever seen it torqued before. Like, there was no way you were going to get out of it if she got her arm around your head. Just threw her right over like so many times, and that was really the difference in that fight. But this unique technique. That should be the name of a gym right there. Give me credit if you start it. Unique technique. Come on down. Macy Chason also got a big win over Marion Renault, the veteran there. It was sort of a decent fight. Both of them had their moments, but Chason got the edge out. Unanimous decision there. Trevin Giles beating Roman Dolidze. Montel Jackson over Jesse Strader. That was a good one. Ended real quick. Jackson had much better experience going into that one. Strader was just totally outmatched. He only lasted 2 seconds short of 2 minutes. We talked about the first one. Then we got the big one, your boy, this weekend, Tom. MIOCIC.
Yes, sir.
And NGANNOU. Do you believe in your boy?
And still, simply because of Lottie, that, we're hearing, I'm sure NGANNOU's working hard in training, and he's working on his takedown defense and his cardio. I'm sure he is. And I'm sure he's going to be better than the first time. But so is Stipe.
Yeah.
And NGANNOU, after the Derek Lewis fight, where after, he just wasn't mentally there after the Stipe loss, but he's rattled off 4 wins, but he's done it in the first round.
Right. Well, the problem I see with NGANNOU,
we haven't seen cardio.
Biggest problem I see with NGANNOU is what I'll call the Czech Congo syndrome, because he can either be Mike Tyson or Czech Congo. Which, by Czech Congo, I mean a muscled-up, huge guy who you think is going to ruin everybody that steps in front of him, and he ends up going out there and laying an egg. Or just fighting like a very close fight because he doesn't seem to use those muscles to their potential. Francis Ngannou is like that. He can just fight a plodding fight, walk around and chase you, not get any connections in good. It's like he doesn't know how to use his best strength sometimes. And then there's other times where you can't get away from his shots. So it's one of those, it depends on which Francis and
and having said that, I mean, we know that when there's a killer puncher like that, a George Foreman, a Mike Tyson, I mean, this could be over in the first minute if Stipe gets caught. I mean, it could happen to anyone. But I just feel Stipe's really got some inner feedback from the gym, and they said he's looking better than ever. Which I know it's not a real fight, but I would say that about Ngannou, that we hear how much he's improved. Well, in the gym, I'm sure he's looking good. He's throwing good kicks and everything. But can you do it in a real fight?
Well,
that remains
you know what?
to be seen, and it's not.
Stipe is a different breed. Okay, he adjusts very well, number one. And number two, he doesn't have to hit you from a distance to put you on the ground. He can hit you like the 1-inch Bruce Lee punch and just put your lights out. Like he
did with Virgil.
Yes. So I think we're going to see that type of a performance from him. He's going to be very sharp. He's going to be quicker. And he's not going to lose that power. It kind of reminds me of like the Jack Dempsey type, because Jack Dempsey did not look like a muscular fighter. But he hit people with a ton of bricks just because of the nature of his work. I mean, he swung a sledgehammer in a labor job for most of his life. So, he was a strong dude. And Stipe's a fireman. So
it was funny, Rich, talking about Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey was very wiry. He was wiry. I was taking it from that movie, The Replacements, how the Scottish guy would say it, wiry. But no, Jack Dempsey was very wired. And I was reading an article about him yesterday, and one of his quotes was, what? When you're a hobo and you have to eat, you might get knocked down. But when you're on that ground, you better get up, because that $2 that you would win in this fight, winner gets $2, loser gets nothing. And that $2 would get you something to eat. You crawl yourself off that canvas.
Yeah. Great story. But, I believe in Stipe, too.
And remember, Rich, we know about Stipe's mind. He's so together mentally. And Ngannou has suffered from breakdowns before.
Right.
I mean, I don't think he ever really... you look at him in that Derek Lewis fight. What was wrong with him? I mean, that's after the Stipe fight. So, again, not saying he hasn't had a head coach and got himself together, but it hasn't been proven. And there you go. And I mean, if I didn't know Stipe, or if we didn't have that connection, I'd say the same thing. So, there we go.
Well, yeah. I'm not picking either on sympathy for you. I definitely believe in him. Totally. So I probably will do 2 cards again, even though I only have $13 left over from my Super Bowl winnings in the stash. Still got money left. It's not quite enough, but for 2 cards. But I'll put some extra money in just for this one, because it is a smaller card, so there's a better chance of winning. But anyway, I'm a big believer there. We got Tyron Woodley versus Vicente Lucay. Now this is definitely a kind of a tune-up fight, I believe, for Tyron Woodley, where it's do or die. You better tune up, or you're going to be a
relevant. Yeah. This is it. There's no tomorrow for him.
And Vicente is got 7 losses, but very tough guy, very crafty fighter, and that's going to be a tight one. I'd like to say Tyron will win, but talk about gun shy. Jesus. after he got beat by Usman there, I think it was, just totally different fighter since then. Very kind of cautious, just not the same dominance at all. So kind of worries me sometimes when I see a fighter have that happen to him, because most of it's mental. It can't be physical. It's not that he's not doing the work. It's just that he can't shake the thought of what could happen to him at the worst possible moment of the fight. There's something going on in his head, I think. So I hope he gets past that, and I hope he wins this fight. I don't really have anything against Vicente. I just think Tyron's capable of a lot better than he's been doing lately. So I'll probably pick him over Vicente, but I'll look deeper into their records before I make my final picks. So don't bet your house on it. Sean O'Malley, 12-1, fighting Thomas Almeida, who is 22-4. Sean coming fresh off his first loss of his career. Obviously, he had the leg injury in the fight before that. So still trying to prove his dominance, but he's also had some amazing knockouts so far. Great performances. He's got a lot of energy. Thomas Almeida coming in at 22-4 with all the experience. Big name. So this is a great opportunity for O'Malley to show that he belongs. Whether he really does belong, we'll find. That's a great matchup on paper. I don't really know which one to pick on that one. I'll have to watch the previews to really figure that one. We got the female fight that always seems to play into the cards on FanDuel. Jillian Robertson, 9-5, fighting Miranda Maverick, 8-2. And we got Jamie Malarkey, 12-4, fighting Kama Worthy, 16-7. Alonzo Metafield, 9-2, fighting Fabio Charant, 7-1. Jared Gooden, 17-5. Don't know if he's related to Dwight of baseball fame. Fighting Abubakar Nurmagomedov, 15-3-1, who's probably related to the other Nurmagomedov. Modestas Bukauskis, 11-3, in the third fight of the night, fighting Michael Oleksiewicz. Definitely butchering that. Shane Young in the second fight of the night, 13-5, fighting Omar Morales, who's 10-1, which is kind of a good record for a second fight. Anyway, Marc-Andre Barrios, 11-4, fighting Abu Aizaitar in the first fight of the night. And now all we have is a couple stories here. Gervonta Davis, big trouble, facing 7 years in prison after a hit and run charge caught up to him. We talked about this maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe longer, when it first happened. But they finally charged him. He's in a lot of trouble. It was in a Lamborghini, too, so I don't know if there was high speeds involved, but bad stuff for him. Won't go into too many details. We'll figure it out as it goes along. He's innocent until proven guilty, so we'll wait for developments on that. Also, Misha Tate, coming out of retirement. And, let's see. What else? I know I got something else. She's coming out of retirement to fight Marion Renault, and it's going to be on a UFC card. So, it's pretty interesting. Oh, I don't know if you checked out my Facebook page today, Tony. But,
I don't know. I might have seen it when I was at work.
So, I had a story of a Florida woman. I don't know if this happened while you were down afterwards. But a Florida woman made the news for going after her daughter's bully with her daughter right after a meeting with the principal. They went right to the gym or the lunchroom or something, and they went right after the girl, and the mother had a boxing glove super glued to her wrist.
Super glued to the wrist, huh? I mean, lacing it?
Yeah, super glued, like the Gorilla Glue lady. I don't know why she felt the need to super glue it, or why she didn't wear both gloves. But I guess she had to turn the key for the ignition. I don't know. But yeah, super glued it to the hand. I don't know if she wore the glove to the principal's meeting, or if she was even at the principal's meeting, but it was the mother that was wearing the glove. And the daughter went right to the lunchroom and started beating on the girl, and then the mother joined in. Like, it's just the most bizarre story I've ever heard. So yeah, I figured I'd squeeze that in. That's about it for us, I believe.
Super glued. I mean, that one I've never heard.
It reminded me of the old Art Jimerson story from UFC. Art Jimerson was the guy that came into one of the first UFCs wearing one boxing glove.
One glove.
Maybe she had heard that story. I don't know. All right. I guess that's it for this week. We've already gone a little bit over time, and great interview there. So we'll be promoting the crap out of this one.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it.
I mean, you figure out I've got to get up early to... you got to go from basically my room to my dining room and wear my fancy work sweatpants.
Oh, by the way, Tony,
I just have to go down to my office in the basement, but it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sunday, I have my first day off of the year, and I just told all my tax clients, and I told TurboTax, I says, nope, I'm going to have an adrenaline hangover, and no work Sunday.
There you go. Kick your feet up.
Celebrating and still.
Hopefully,
yes, sir. That's going to be
glorious.
The plan. All right, guys, let's enjoy the fight. And
right.
still.
And still, yes. Hopefully, that'll make me a millionaire.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
You too.